In C#6, we have a new notion of null conditional operators where you can remove declaring a conditional branch to check to see if the instance of an object is null or not. So in this lecture, we are going to examine the new null conditional operator and null propagation in C#6. I'm going to go right here where my comment says null conditional operator and null conditional propagation, and I'm just going to type a string value, and I'm going to name it string value null. And I'm going to set it equal to a value of has a value. And we've discussed already how to implement null conditional operators in C#, but I want to demonstrate it again and show you how it works in C#6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to implement null conditional operators for C#5 and below. So right here, let's go right line. We're going to implement the right line right there. And we're going to detect value null to determine if it's null or not. And we're going to say, if it is not equal to null, then we want to write the value of value null. So in this case, since it isn't null, it's going to write out to the console has a value. But if it did not have a value, then we want to give it and say it is null. So what's going to happen, it's detecting if a value is null or not. If it is not null, we're saying that it has a value associated with the string value. Then we're saying if the string value null was like this, then it would write out it is null. So this is how you would implement it in previous versions of C#. This is how you would implement the null conditional operator. So now let's go to C#6, and it just simplifies the syntax. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a right line again, and we're going to say value null, and we're going to put a little question mark here and a period, and we're going to say toString, and then we're going to say double question mark, and we're going to put it is null. Now look how simplified that syntax is compared to the previous version. You save a few characters, but look at this. So we're saying essentially the same thing. We're saying that if value null is not null, then set toString value null. So we're detecting if the value is null or not toString, and then if it is null, write it is null. So compare the first version to the second one. This is the new detection null operator associated in C#. So when you put question mark period and then you associate the property, it determines if the value is null or not. So right here we're saying here value null is not null, then write out to the console value null toString, which is has a value. And then we're saying that if it is null, then write out to the console it is null. There's not a huge difference between C#5 and below and C#6, but this is the new simplistic way of doing null conditional operator checks and to associate null propagation associated with your specific values associated with your variables. You can also do this detection using link syntax or different methods that you associate on your class. Remember that this is a detection to associate with a specific property. So when you implement this, you have to associate a property after you implement the null check. I want to thank you for joining me in this lecture. Have a nice day.